artificial intelligence, these large language models are something that have boomed over the first quarter of 2024. I think personally, how much of that is marketing and how much of that is reality, I'm still kind of on the fence and waiting to see how that plays out. But with any new technology, with any new platform, with anything that we're quick to adopt, there are risks. And what the challenge we're faced with is understanding, accepting, or putting measures in to protect against those risks. And with artificial intelligence being inserted into so much so quickly, as cybersecurity professionals, we are already on the back foot when it comes to this. When it comes to trying to gauge and understand those risk profiles associated with those services, we're in a position where we don't really understand the true extent of what needs to be safeguarded and what needs to be policed. Pardon me, I think in terms of my working life, I've never seen anything adopted or kind of so much hype around it as we've seen with artificial intelligence. And whether we like it or not, our user communities are already adopting these tools to drive efficiency and productivity. Now, it's fair to say that AI is really interesting, and I think it delivers a lot of stuff. There's a lot of people that are using it because it's driving efficiencies. It's driving, making us work as smart as possible. Again, I was at RSA last week or the week before, and they said that they estimate the adoption of artificial intelligence is going to inflate inflate GDP for the whole world by almost double, maybe even threefold. So, by being more productive, by getting more things done by these artificial intelligence models, we are going to see an awful lot of benefit. But, I speak to people all the time, and the number of companies that I've spoken to that have AI policy in place is pretty much zero. I think there was one person that I spoke to that said, yeah, they have a policy in place, but whether that was ratified by technology and things, I don't yet know. When we saw this happen with the cloud, we saw the term shadow IT get born, and that described things that were taking our data even though they were unsanctioned in terms of cloud platforms and things like that, which we couldn't police. And I think we're going to see the term shadow AI become ubiquitous with the kind of sprawl of artificial intelligence platforms that our user community are adopting, regardless of whether we've said that they should or shouldn't. So I think with the hype and the kind of buzz and widespread benefit around tools like your Gemini, your ChatGPT, your Copilot and other models, I think we're actually trying to put out a fire which we've not really got the visibility of yet still. And that's a problem that's only going to be exacerbated as that boom really continues. I think a lot of organizations are still continuing to ride that wave almost. And they're pushing products out with artificial intelligence embedded in them. Sometimes even other organizations' artificial intelligence models have been exposed via different platforms. So having to untangle that, is very, very difficult. And we're going to have to be able to answer some pretty difficult questions in the near future. Now, the way that AI works means that it's a challenge like we've never faced before when it comes to keeping data safe. By design, it's going to try and remember what's been exposed to it in the same way that a human being would, and then use that data to provide more accurate answers in the future. So as professionals, we need to understand what AI is looking at our data, and whether that's okay or not, whether that's acceptable, and what sort of data types we should be sending into those models in the first place. Because if it remembers them, what's going to stop it from, or what's going to stop someone, from either intentionally or unintentionally asking it for data that they shouldn't potentially see, and the AI model just giving it to them? If I was to go and say, Mr. AI model, don't know whether they have sex AI models, can you give me Sam's credit card numbers, and it may well do so. That's probably not what it was designed for. But I think because they're being rushed to market to drive this wave of kind of hype, they're not potentially delivering privacy by design and security by design. So that's a very, very real responsibility whilst it continues to be unpoliced. Now, another challenge that we've got is that artificial intelligence uses natural language. So that makes it easy for you and I to use. But what it means is that whilst we're still looking at those infrastructure and perimeter technologies in our security operations, they don't deal with natural language. Those platforms make decisions on numbers, on ports, on IP addresses. At the very best, they make decisions based on identities and behaviors, not on natural language sentences that you and I might use. So an organization might have done a really, really, really good job of building up technology to keep files safe and systems safe and things like that. But what we're going to see is that we're going to take the control out of or off of that file as we take the data out of it and put it into a natural language model, meaning that the shape of the data that we're trying to police, that's changing literally in front of our eyes. And finally, these technologies are new or newish, which means that there are 0 days which have yet to be proven or exploited. What I mean by that is that there are exploits which are theoretically possible and eventually will be a reality. Obviously, how they expose our data remains to be seen. But if you don't know which large language models have been used inside your organization and what data might be inside them, then you've got no idea of the risk profile that you're accepting by continuing to allow their use. So mitigating risk when it comes to artificial intelligence, the first thing is we need to understand what's being used and we need to enable our workforce. Now, as I said, there is a really, really good chance that they're delivering efficiency and productivity gains by using those tools within their department. And probably 90% of the stuff that's going into those models is absolutely fine to do so. Security and IT teams, we're often the bad guys saying, no, you can't use that tool, you can't use this tool, let's stop access to it. So what we want to do is enable them to still use those tools, but use them under the right circumstances. What we have to do is gauge which one of those large language models are good, which ones are bad, which ones are potentially ugly. And then once we've identified those, understood the model, understand where it runs, understand what impact that might have on your privacy, might have on your data residency laws and things like that. And then we need to build policy around it and secure that with technology to kind of check what's going in, check what's going out, and making sure that it's with appropriate data types, as I've already mentioned. One big thing with AI is that there are numerous moral and privacy challenges that kind of sit around it, challenges that we haven't really had to think about with other technology before, so we're not very well versed in kind of considering. But, there are potential biases within artificial intelligence. There are levels of influence that artificial intelligence might have on our data, levels of toxicity built into those models that we might not want to accept. I suppose what I'm saying is that I expect this to be a unparalleled challenge that we're all faced with and a relatively bumpy ride. Legislation is thin on the ground at the moment. We've got an EU AI Act, but really that puts more focus on the morality employed by the producers of the algorithms rather than the businesses adopting them themselves. So that's going to be something that we, as the community, are going to have to police inside all of our organizations for, well, at least for now anyway.